How you doing, everyone? It's Thursday, and it's time for, yes, another broadcast. Wherever you are in the Brawtherhood or perhaps in the internet verse, if that's a thing, we thank you for watching. Let me explain what happens on broadcast if you've never tuned in before. It's not just about beards. It's not just about certain alternative lifestyles. It's a little bit about everything. We like to bring diversity to our guests. We have people from MMA, pro wrestlers, actors, comedians, singers from all around the world, and we get to chat to them on the show a little bit about what makes them them, and particularly where we are in this rambunctious 2021. We hope you're well. We hope you're safe. A couple of bits of business before we kick off. First of all, make sure to check out everything that's going on over at BrawBeardOils.com. Hey, here's our little bonus. In February, when you make an order, you get one of these bad boys. Pang! You actually get a free Braw Cast coaster or beer mat. I'm not exactly sure. Put with your order as well. I don't know if that's going to really incentivize you, but you should be making the order anyway, so don't worry about it. Right, I'm very excited to bring our guest because even though we've had so many interesting guests over the last year that we've been broadcast, we've never actually delved into the world of self-employment, business, generating more interest in you or your product, your business. We've never really gone into that, despite the fact we know there's lots of people watching from those backgrounds that would love more information about it. So I'm interested and I'm very excited to bring our guest. He is known as the implementer. Hopefully he's checked out his website this morning, and I thought that sounded like a pro wrestler name. I thought that was proper cool. So I'm excited to welcome. He's, I believe, in Newcastle. Tega Diegbe. Tega, are you there? Yes.
I am indeed.
Yeah. How are you, sir?
I am very well, thank you. Like, that is probably the most energetic intro to me. The oxymoron is going to become clear whenever we get into the episode, but that is the most energetic intro to me that anybody has ever done. So thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. But sadly, I have only one speed. But, I will, as a Scotsman, we talk way too fast, but I will do my best to slow down, and we'll have ourselves some fun. It is. I was having a look through your website this morning. We were really excited about you coming on the show. So many different. You've got so many different things going on just now. You run a Facebook ads agency, podcast management agency, virtual talent recruitment agency, and your own personal consultancy business.
Yeah, there is a bit going on, but I suppose we'll get into it when we get into the episode. I didn't start all of those at the same time.
Oh wow!
Primarily, all of those came around because naturally I'm a very curious person, and somebody asked me to help them with something. I figure it out. As I figure stuff out, I just happen to like document stuff and think of it in terms of processes. So because I know how to recruit people, I figure if I have a process and I can recruit people, it's almost like a business in a box type of skill. You find the right person and give them the right documents and processes that they can run and manage that business. Well, they can run and manage the implementation. Somebody still has to run and manage the business.
Oh, I see. Right. So there's a real. So would you say, yeah, in terms of observing other people or being able to create that element of communication, so you can have an understanding of their issues, so you can implement solutions potentially based on the obstacles they would have?
Yeah, I think that's a very big boy way to say it. The simplest way to say it is I like solving problems. If I can solve a problem and document my solution to that problem, I basically create a turnkey product or service, if you will. And thanks to the magic of the internet, 8 out of 10 times I don't have to do the fulfillment myself. And if I can find someone to do the fulfillment, it becomes almost like a handoff business.
Oh, right. I see. Well, before we get into the nuts and bolts and start kicking the tires of what you do, I think, and it's such a unique set of skills that really you have. I made it sound a little more Liam Neeson there than I expected. Apologies. Just in case anyone's tuning in at this moment, oh my God, he's talking to a hitman or something.
I will find you.
He will find you, and he will solve your problems.
There we go. Exactly.
If that's not an action movie poster, I don't know what is. But we're going to talk about the background first of all, because taking the journey into what you do now, what was this something that you wanted to do from a young age, or what was the ambitions as you were sort of walking up to sort of career ideas or what you wanted to do in the world? Where did this come from?
When I was 18, on my 18th birthday,
Right.
June the 13th, um, I woke up to my dad standing over my bed. Because generally 18 is it's that age whereby you get the talk and it's like, right, it's time for you to be a big boy. Start thinking about what you're going to do and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the conversation with my dad was kind of like along that line. And then the question came up, like, what do you want to do? Without even missing an eyelid, without missing a breath, I just said, I want to do cool shit with cool people. Right. So if you're asking about career progressions, God's honest truth, I had no idea. I've got a degree in computing studies. I've got a degree in film and television studies.
Yep.
I've run, before doing what I'm doing now, I run a little debt management company. So I think at 18, I knew I didn't want to have a traditional job.
Yeah.
So you would ask, well, why did you go to uni? Because I grew up in a household where education was valued, and because it was valued, going to uni was the thing to do. Right.
Yeah.
So I was going to uni. In my mind, I was doing that to appease my parents while I figured out exactly what I was going to do with myself. I knew it wasn't going to be in the traditional world of employment. I knew it wasn't going to be that. Just what it was, I didn't know. With regards to what I do right now, I still sometimes struggle to describe it, and because I struggle to describe it, it's a little bit difficult to sell myself, right? So, which is why I've shifted my focus more to my website, because I think the words that I write, the content I create, will do a better job of selling what I can do, and I think that's working, because you basically talked about everything that I do. But the content I create can sell what I can do better than I can do it. And if the content, in my opinion, shows knowledge and expertise, or not really expertise, but knowledge and experience of solving problems, it opens the doors to people coming to me saying, can you help me with XYZ? Which is ideal for me, because it speaks to that master generalist in me. Don't really want to specialize in anything. I want to know a lot about a whole bunch of different things. And I think, anyway, the magic of what I do is actually bringing things together, tying it together, and seeing how something people generally think can't work, seeing how you can make it work.
So we are somewhat kindred spirits to a point, because I did not only the same thing in terms of making sure you went to university, because that's what you're supposed to do in the family. Yeah. I also did film and media studies. So here we are. And then I spent 15 years as a stand-up comedian. So it shows you how well things went there. But it's part of the journey, isn't it? It's just almost taking in this information before really finding your way in the world. Because I know people that are 18 and they go, this is my path. Yeah. And they're not quite ready for that change that will inevitably happen. I don't know many people, maybe beyond plumbers or people who work in labor, that are maybe, still doing the same thing they wanted to do when they were 16 that they're doing when they're 65.
Yeah, I think. I think like really that is just down to personal choice, isn't it? You find yourself when you find yourself. I say I found myself a little bit late. That's not accurate. I just didn't have the confidence to step into who I was.
Yeah.
Because of, again, the household that I kind of grew up in. Not that there's anything wrong in the household. It's just being Nigerian, because I am Nigerian British. The culture over there is very much, until you actually leave the house, you do what your mom and dad say, right? God. So when it comes to making choices, what mom and dad says goes. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter what you want. Well, to some degree, it matters what you want to do, so long as it's in line with what mom and dad say. So the reason why I didn't have the confidence to step up and be who I wanted to be was, at those formative years, that was the message that was running in the background, right? As I got older, I knew I didn't want to go down the traditional route, but I didn't know how to communicate that with them. I didn't know how to say, like, yo, this is not what I wanted to do, because of that story running in the back of my mind, I would become the prodigal son, proverbially, of the family, because I'd be the one that wouldn't want to go to uni, that wouldn't want to get a traditional job, that would just want to do what he wanted to do without thinking about the future, without thinking about stuff like pensions and all that adult stuff, if you will.
But it's interesting that mantra you had, almost, whether deliberate or not, as an 18-year-old, has served you into what you do now. I want to do cool shit with cool people. It is almost, kicking out the box of what you want to do and what you're wanting to develop. So you go into these other jobs, you go into these other points of interest, you find yourself with a thirst for information. Would that be fair to say? A thirst for information to build on knowledge that's even subconscious, sort of moving towards something.
Okay. So I told the story about my 18th birthday.
Yes.
One of the books I got for my birthday then was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know if you've read that. And in that book, there was this diagram of this thing that he calls the cash flow quadrant.
Right.
So being 18, not really knowing what I wanted to do, you've got 4 boxes divided into 4 equal squares. In the top left of the box, you have the letter E, which stands for employed. In the top right of the box, you have the letter S, which stands for self-employed. The bottom left of the box, you have the letter B, which stands for business owner. And then the bottom right of the box, you have the letter I, which stands for investor. Probably put this in the show notes because the way I explain it is not going to do it justice. But what I got from that box was, those are 4 boxes on which you can build your life, right? You can be employed, you can be self-employed, you can be a business owner, you can be an investor. It wasn't until I got older that I realized that looking at that box the way I did at 18, because of lack of experience, was very finite. You can be anything at any time in that box. You can't be everything at once. You can be anything you want. You can't be everything at once. Where you choose to be gives you different powers of leverage, right? So from 18, I kind of decided that I wanted to operate in the business owner box. And the key thing about being a business owner is you don't work for money, in the sense that your income is not tied to the hours that you're working. Right. So the leverage you have there is you have the leverage of systems that work for you, whether that's technology or whether it's people that work with you or for you. So that was something that I took from that early age and actually took forward. In a way, it's kind of been like the foundation which everything I've built is built on, right? Because if somebody has a problem and I solve that problem, in my mind, immediately I go, well, if one person has this problem, there's no reason why 10 people don't have that problem. If 10 people have that problem, there's no reason why 100 people don't have that problem. So if I can solve it for one person, I can solve it for 100 people. But I can't work with 100 people one-to-one. So how do I break this down so that if 100 people came to me and said, "Oi, we see that you know how to do this thing, can you fix it for us?" I'm not then saying, "Ooh, I can only work with 10.
Yeah.
Right. There's different nuances that you go down. If as the numbers go up, then you need to put better systems in place. But when the numbers stay small, yes, you can work with however many you want. But operating from that business owner box, if you will, I decided I would just build systems. And in building systems, I realized there's only 24 hours in a day. I need to learn how to hire people, which is where the recruitment agency thing kind of came in. So yeah, that's how I think about that.
That's interesting, because on your site there was what's the way of putting it? There was I don't want to say a stage process. Like you certainly had. I've actually got it here somewhere. As regards to your 10 stages you were talking about, or lessons that you've learned. Some of the must-have tools, dare we suggest, and one of the things you actually mentioned in that was of outsourcing. You mentioned only being 24 hours in a day, and you're not necessarily, I'm not saying as a self-employed person and a business owner in my own right, the amount of work, you're not tied realistically to the hours that you do, or the purchase not. So in terms of outsourcing work, was this something where exactly, and I'm interested from the point of view, as you said, did you study these in different ways, or was this something you found along the way as you were developing these systems in order to prevent, to take these measures forward? Was this something you learned yourself, or were you just developing it from the seeds to the grass, so to speak?
Right. Okay. So this kind of goes back to like the first business which I co-owned, the debt management company, and it goes back to that company because the way my business partner at the time and I grew that company was by word of mouth.
All right.
So we got to a place where we were making like, I think like the first major financial milestone we had was like 10 grand saved in the bank. So we got to a place where we had 10 grand saved in the bank, where we're making around like things like 3 to 5 grand a month.
Right.
And then we had a month where the 3 to 5 grand went down to like between 2 and 3. Not really worrying. And then the next month that 2 and 3 went down to like 1,500 and 2. Then we sat down and had a meeting and go, right, we kind of knew this was coming because we've been growing by word of mouth. Word of mouth is kind of slowed down. We need to learn how to market. You could say this was in the infancy of the internet, but not really, because the internet had been around a while. And then he had the idea that he would keep finding new people and working with the clients we had to actually like get word of mouth back up. And then I would learn how to do digital marketing, which is kind of how I ended up where I am. Right. So from that point, I started learning about digital marketing, being infinitely curious. I started buying everything I could, just learning everything I could. And then one day I came across, I don't even remember how I came across it, but I remember when I came across, it was a blog by a guy called John Jonas. Started a company, ran the company for him, like by himself, being married, being a father of like 3 or 4 kids. And then he got sick, and then he realized, oh, I'm in trouble because I'm sick now. My business is not working. Well, my business is there, but I'm not making any money because all the money was coming from me working.
Yeah.
So he started learning about outsourcing, and I've kind of just followed him on and off through the years. And anytime somebody talked about outsourcing, I would actually read their stuff. But I was reading their stuff, and I was putting it through my own filter. And my filter really goes back to operating from that place of being a business owner. I've figured out that I had to learn how to work with people, but not just work with people, but be able to decide what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. And the stuff I wasn't good at, if I had no interest in getting good at it, just learning to let that go. Or even if I was good at it, if it took me too long to do, it made no sense for me to do it when there were people that could do it faster than I could. Yes. And in most cases, a lot cheaper than it would cost me to do it. So it becomes a case of weighing up that investment. So that's kind of how I did it. Starting in the journey of outsourcing, I made so many different mistakes that everybody kind of makes, but the mistakes I was making was lack of experience and lack of information. Yes. And every mistake I made just made me think about the whole situation differently, made me think differently about how I was approaching the problem. It's not really a problem, it's an issue to overcome, but how I was approaching the problem, how I was thinking about the problem, and how at that time my limited thinking was causing those problems for me. Right. So earlier on you talked about thinking outside the box.
Yes.
I try to think outside the box, and I find that doesn't really work well for me. So I just adopted the mantra of thinking like there is no box. So that's how we got there.
I love that. That's great. Did you find when you started working with people? I mean, you're saying you're educating and you are almost re-educating how you were doing things.
Yeah.
Did you find you had to do that when you started working with other businesses? Obviously, you've still got this even today, and you can see from your website and the articles and the essays you've written on there, the blogs, I should say. If you do get an opportunity, go over and check out his website.
My man called it an essay. They are.
I've never called it an essay before. I've no idea why I did that.
They're written to be that way though, because when those are written, like the team and I, we write them really with 3 goals in mind. Right? Goal 1 is to inform and educate. Goal 2 is to demonstrate experience and authority, if you will. And then goal 3 is, we're not really focusing on that so much right now, right? Our focus really at the minute is on the first 2, but goal 3 is to generate clients from it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why we write to the depth that we do about the things that we write about.
I found them incredibly interesting because they must educate people that it's like you said, people are aware of potential solutions or issues that they can overcome, but they don't know even how to get that information because it's not like something you can just Google and the answer's there. Like in particular, you were saying one of the articles was started with how to market as an introvert. That might be someone that has no idea how to market themselves, or that sentence on its own as a headline is an attention grabber because you might get people that are maybe unsure, maybe it even comes from a lack of personal confidence from just sure how to sell themselves when they see other people that are excelling at that. Even going down to the particulars of how to start a podcast, which lots of businesses and associations are now doing. I had to ask particularly about that because did you find it difficult to start almost engaging people's thought process to start coming round to what you were saying? Because some people can be quite stilted in terms of progression or developing their business. Did you find it difficult, or were people seeking you out going, help?
I find myself in the fortunate position where I've built up, I feel, a lot of goodwill in my social network just because of my job, if you can call it that. I do air quotes because I don't really consider what I do a job. I help people in Facebook groups solve their problems. I don't consider that a job. So because of that, I've built up a whole lot of social goodwill. And because of that, people tend to be a little bit more open with me. They know that if they're speaking to me, I would hope that they know that there's no ulterior motive. When we're speaking in the moment. If I'm helping them with a problem, I'm helping them at that time to the best of my knowledge and to the best of my ability without thinking, oh, I'm only going to help you so much. And then when there's this question or when there's this vital bit, that's when I hit you with the, oh, now you got to pay me type stuff. So I think that is, that's created a whole bunch of goodwill. And the way that I've leveraged that is, as people come to me with problems, I'm open with them to say, this might become an article, your name might get mentioned. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the questions that you're asking me, and I'm going to be answering those questions in those articles or essays. So when you look at it and when you say it's informative, it's because I'm writing it from the point of view of somebody that, not that they don't have any idea. You have an idea what you want to do. So when you want to start a podcast, you know what a podcast is.
Yeah.
You have an idea what you want to do. Just what you don't know is some of the technical stuff or some of the admin stuff that has to happen in the background for you to have a podcast. Yeah. So when I wrote that article, the goal was to show what's involved in actually having and running a podcast, because all the other bits of content out there that you see is created with a view of selling you, either it's an info product or selling you a service whereby they do the thing for you. And my thinking was be a little bit rebellious and tell them everything, right? Because I've heard so many times that if you put 10 people in a room and show them how to make $1 million or tell them how to make $1 million, only 5 or 6 of them will actually take serious what you're saying. And of that 5 or 6, only 1 or 2 will actually go away and do the thing that you told them to do. Wow. Right? So I wrote that really for the 1 to 2 people out of 10 that will actually roll their sleeves up and do what they need to do. For the rest of them, the call to action is simple. I've demonstrated I know exactly what to do. You can check out my website. You can check out my podcast. You can check out the people I've done podcasts for. You can see what they say about me. I know what I'm talking about. You want to have a podcast. You don't want to do all the stuff on the back end. Let me do it for you.
All right. So it's educating people in what they need, but also giving them enough confidence that they can reach out to someone like yourself and confidence in what you do. That's really, and the articles are fantastic. I literally was having to look through them this morning, and I'm gonna lie, I got my pad out on a couple of things. There were some amazing tips in there. So thank you very much in advance.
Thank you for the kind words.
I'll say that much. Now, one thing I had to talk about, you mentioned, interestingly enough, and you said in the infancy of the internet, I know that's not specifically what you mean, but it does obviously that we are constantly shifting in terms of changes, whether it be in business or whether it be marketing, particularly on the internet. Have you found great changes? And even during this period, here we are on lockdown, people are having to, I mean, you mentioned building email lists. That might be something no one's considered before, but they walk by custom. Even Facebook ads. Have you found big changes and had to adapt your thinking and the words that you're probably expressing to people in terms of the work they need to do? Have you found you've had to adapt and make big changes in what you've had to do over the last years with the progression of the internet?
That's a good question. It's a good question because, as you've probably seen from my content, I don't like to do surface level, right? The nature of what we do, should I say the nature of what we do or the nature of human beings? It's probably more the nature of human beings than what we attracted to bright, shiny objects, if you will, right? We're attracted to things that promise quick results, right? Go to sleep, don't do nothing, think about six-pack abs, wake up in 2 days and you have six-pack abs. Those are the kind of messages that attract us. So for me, it's a constant struggle between how do you simplify the message, or how do you simplify something that someone would consider complex to a way that they get it, but also give them in-depth knowledge about that thing. Again, like the essays or the blog posts on my website are a good example of that. I realized that in today's age, like bringing it back to your question, where everybody is kind of writing and thinking 140 characters because of Twitter, you have to have the belief in what you're doing to write a 5,000 word article or 5,000 word blog post in that age, right? And know that even though you are going to be speaking to people that think or write in 140 characters, the people that need your help will see that it takes more than 140 characters to get the message across.
Right. That's interesting. That's very interesting. There's so much information to want to dig into. But certainly a lot of what you're doing is over at your website. People have to check it out. If you are interested in business or any type, or even looking at development, or even just thinking like there's no box, certainly in what you're doing, you've got to go over and check out the website. I have to talk about a couple of other things. First of all, you're in Newcastle right now, if I'm correct, which is family to us Scots. You're almost as close as you can be. We'll absolutely love Newcastle, but I know that you're also a proud family man.
In the sense that I like my family. I've grown to cherish that relationship when there were times in my life when really I didn't. I put other things above my family. So yeah.
I can completely understand that. Again, I'm beginning to wonder if there is Nigerian blood in my family, because there seems to be a lot of comparisons here going on. But one thing I've certainly got to talk about, and John that runs Braw Beard, I've got to ask, how did the relationship come to be with John?
That's from one of our groups. the I said my job with the air quotes thing. John is in our group. The group is called Espresso with Dan. Dan is the guy I work with slash
Mhm,
for. Um, and that group really is where we help business owners like with their business.
mhm,
It's like a coaching and consulting type deal. So we
mhm.
get in the weeds with them, help them deal with the issues. And that's how we met John.
Do you think, like, the reason I bring that up is because I think sometimes, and this will sound silly, people hear business and certain terminology and they think it's only pure white collar business or it's really clerical business. But John, prime example, a business, Braw Beard Oils merchandise. Is there real diversity? Because I know there'll be people watching this and going, I'm interested about it, but I don't know if what I do, either as a self employed person or as a business. Do you think there's these implementations that you're talking about, do they apply across the board any type of business?
That's another good question. The the ego in my head that loves the sound of my voice wants to say yes.
Right,
But the logical side of me will say it depends.
right.
Is it going to be applicable like in broad strokes? Yes, it will be. But when it comes to implementation, the implementation for a business like John's, for example,
Uh,
will be different to the implementation for somebody else, right?
yes,
Because that comes down to the services you provide or the products that you sell. In John's case, he has a physical product that he has to ship to people,
that's right.
right? People can see that it's tangible. As well as it being tangible, there's the emotional side of things. Um, there is the emotions that using the product that he sells evokes. There's the emotion that being at the Beard Festival evokes. There's the emotion that wearing the merchandise evokes. There's the emotion that chatting to people that are going through this process of growing a beard evokes. And it's completely different to what Sally down the road, who teaches people how to do makeup, will do. Right.
Right.
So thinking in broad strokes, I would say it's generally applicable,
Yes.
but you have to take that with the understanding that that is only applicable as far as the business and the services or the products that you are selling to people.
Okay, so there's almost an evolution of ideas that could happen within some of the principles that you're saying, and that's why you have these groups, and that's why you have these discussions and these problems to become solutions, should we say?
Precisely.
So
Precisely.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Right, we've got to talk very quickly. Aware of your time, we've got to talk about your beard first of all. It is so unbelievably well kept, and I know John will be watching this screaming, talk about the beard. I guess we've got to talk a little bit in terms of presentation. Did we talk about presentation? I don't know. It's looking very sharp, dare I suggest, as
Thank
your
you.
beard, first of all. Do you use any of our Braw Beard products?
Yes, I do. I use the beard wash.
Lovely.
Um, and my favorite oil is heather. I've tried a whole bunch of them, and like for some weird reason, like when I got that one, when I opened that box and when I put it on my face, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna use this for the rest of my life. I have tried a few others. I tried I think the Grand Exin, which was like a
That's
special
right.
edition, I think.
Yes.
And then there was another one, but it like for me it's heather. Every
Heather
time I'm buying it now, it's heather straight up.
Heather is my personal favorite as well. And I have to say, right here on Braw Cast with our guests, is in general the favorite. Is in general the favorite, has to be said. Do you find that, and I've noticed, like, obviously, in terms of marketing yourself personally, do you think it's important to have professional looking presentation? I mean, don't get me wrong, here I am, all hairy and a mess, stuck in my cupboard. Uh, but do you find it's important that to have a professional presentation, particularly with dealing with people?
It depends on your market,
Yeah.
right? If you're going back to the idea of thinking like there is no box, why do you want to box yourself up by thinking you have to dress a certain way to do business? It depends on your market. There was a guy that made a significant amount of money selling pet rocks on the internet. he doesn't need to get up and dress up in a suit. He still has a business that's changed his life and changed his family's life. So
Yes.
again, the answer is it depends.
It depends. That's cool. But in terms of personally, you like looking sharp, I would suggest.
I go through phases. Like right now, I'm in a bit of a wild phase because we've been locked down for so long. My hair is messy. The beard, I appreciate the compliment. I think it could look better. It could look sharper. But I go through phases. There are times when I take care of myself and I get up and I wanna wear like smart casual clothes, and then there are other times where I want to be in my jogging bottoms and just chill.
Those days, I know we like a little break for those days, but a day in joggy bottoms is, I don't know, it makes the Zoom calls a little more realistic. But look, Tega, it's been such a delight talking to you. Everyone can find out information, of course, over at your website, Tega.com. But where would be other places that they could find the information as well? I mean, you mentioned the groups and what have you, but would the website be the best place to start?
The website and my Facebook profile, really.
Right.
The in-depth stuff goes on the website. The fly-by-night thoughts, if you could call them that, they go on my Facebook profile, because with the way I think, I can just blurt something out, but then I need to take 2 or 3 weeks to actually flesh that stuff out. And then in the process of fleshing that stuff out, that's where you get the services I offer. That's where you get clearer ideas on the problems that I solve, which then gets translated to essays on the website.
Well, we appreciate taking the time. We know that everyone is working from home just now, so I know this is going to be hugely interesting, and we'll make sure to get you a little Braw Beard Oils care package sent down to Newcastle as well. We can't trim the beard, sadly, but we can. I'm sure John can stretch the bottle of heather and get that sent down to you. Right, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to pop you back in the guest room for a second, and I'll wrap this up. Everyone, please give it up for our very special guest. Take it away. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Right, that's what we've got time for on this week of Braw Cast. Again, we bring you guests from all around the world. It's going to be musicians, maybe pro wrestlers we've even had in the show. Today we were talking about business. The only way you'll be able to find out what's happening next week is, of course, to check out all Braw Beard social media. And as well as that, quick plug for myself. Monday Night Improv is going to be back with a brand new special show that we're doing on Friday. You can actually buy tickets to the Zoom gig. It's the first time ever, virtual comedy club. You'll be able to check that out. Tickets are at Eventbrite. But don't forget, get your order in for Raw Beards. And of course, during February, ba-bang, you're going to get your beer mat free coaster as well. This is going to be collectible. You want to get that in. Right. And one more time, look after yourselves, stay safe, and we will see you on the other side. Look after yourself, everyone.